episode 105 of Boroughs and Burbs, season 3. I can't believe we're 105 episodes before we've gotten to the best of Boston. Is not in Boston. It's the suburbs of Boston. And I've got 3 experts. I've got Joni Shore, the legendary Joni Shore. I've got John Shore, who put this in my head on our London trip. I had to go to London to hear about the best of Boston. And then Craig said, wait a minute, it's not just Weston and Wellesley. Let's talk a little bit about the Cape. Let's talk about Needham. Let's talk about some of those other suburbs besides Weston and Wellesley. And so here we are. But before we begin, I have to share the love. I have 3 things I want to mention. 1, designforfreedom.org. I want everybody to check out Design for Freedom. It's about ethical sourcing of building materials in the building trades. That is sponsored by gracefarms.org, and it's near and dear to our heart. The second thing I wanted to mention is Lobster Fest is coming up. You think our lobsters come from here? No, they come from Massachusetts and Maine, and we ship them down. But the Rotary Club is doing Lobster Fest on the 29th. Get your tickets now. And then the other plug I wanted to make was robertocabrera.com. Definitely the best market report. I read it every week, every month, and you should too. So go to robertocabrera.com. If you
New one comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, if you want a really great insight into what's going on in the New York market. And so at some point in the conversation, I'm going to ask you, where do I go for a really great market report on the Boston and suburban market, Boston market? But before we begin, let me just introduce my guest. So Joni, why don't you tell us who you are and what market you serve?
Oh, I'm Joni Shore. I've been doing this. It like shows my age, but anyway, I've been working for 37 years, and since the kids were little, and I do all over. We're from Weston. I brought the children up in Weston. They went to Weston schools. John didn't go to Weston High School. He did go to Trinity Pauling boarding school. And then I've lived in Wellesley. I'm from Brookline, Massachusetts. I shop in Newton, so I know the whole area around here. And I sell in Needham. I sell all of it. Wherever I have to go, I go. That's it.
So I'll put up a map and just kind of locate everybody. There's a little red line around Weston, and I see Wellesley is immediately to the south, and Needham is a little bit to the east. And so I'm beginning to see that it's all kind of lined up against I-95 on the west side.
And Newton, you're missing Newton.
Okay,
Yeah,
and Newton is right here east of Weston.
A little bit closer, and then Brookline goes a little bit closer into Boston, right there. Yeah.
And then we also do Dover because we had a subdivision there. So,
which is directly south of Needham and Wellesley, if you go back.
Right.
Down there.
Just go all the way up and down Route 9 and
a little bit to the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
And is it easy to get around from one to the other of all those little places?
Not really.
Oh yeah, it's easy.
Oh yeah, not really.
Well, I mean,
depends on the time of day.
The traffic is horrendous.
But I do. I get around. I go. I know I have routes. I know where to go, and how to lay out. And we're listing a place in Lexington this next weekend. So we ran to Lexington. So I was in Newton, and then I went to Wellesley, and then I went to Lexington today. So we're all over the place. I found that if you really want to make a nice living, and you have to do you have to know everything. You have to know all the towns. And I know them really well because I was brought up here and I have friends in every town. So, and you have to know what's going on. If I have a listing in like Wellesley, I have to know what's going on other places so I can compare and say, this is better than the listing in Newton that has no land, no this, no that. So I can compare from one town to the other if it's my client or if it's my listing. So I could sort of push it a little. So, that's
because buyers look in various towns.
They look all over.
They look Newton, Wellesley, Weston.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Lexington, Concord. People compare.
And some of them want condos. And Newton has the towers of Chestnut Hill has 423 apartments. And all those apartments went to this particular guy. And then he left, and I am doing a lot of apartments. I did like 4, and well, I'm on my 4th one next week over a period of like 8 weeks. So, and they go.
Is there any value difference? Just curious of being like being west of 95.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean price wise? Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Or desirability.
yeah, well, the prices are higher the closer you get into Boston. So
Sure.
Newton, the prices are higher, and then Brookline, they get higher. For particularly single family homes, Newton and Brookline have more diverse housing opportunities, from condominiums. They have smaller villages. There are also some beautiful estate areas in Newton and Brookline, but there is more variety in those towns. But the prices, particularly for single families, they get higher as you get closer to the city. So Weston and Wellesley, Weston is about 12 miles from Boston. Wellesley is about the same, 12 to 15 miles down the Mass Pike. You can be from Weston or in Wellesley into Boston in what, like during the day, 15 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes.
20, but I will tell you this, this morning it took about 45 minutes to get to Boston from the Weston, the exit over there. It was bumper to bumper the whole way. And sure, like a lot of, cities around the country, Boston has certainly been struggling with traffic. I mean, immensely over the last.
I was late today for my appointment.
Yeah, no, I think we were rated either the first or second worst traffic now in the country.
However, Boston does have an airport in the city, which is unusual. You can be home in, if there's no traffic.
Minutes,
So that's from a standpoint of affordability, obviously you're going to get a better value if you get further out from the city. Is there a tax advantage the further you go out?
I think
go ahead.
Oh, and then you finish. I think really depends upon, what kind of industry is in the town or not.
Exactly.
Some towns that don't have much going on, the taxes are incredibly high. A town like Dover, a town like Wellesley. But then if you have, Needham is actually not that bad in taxes because
Wellesley's not bad either.
Well, yeah, Needham has TripAdvisor's headquarters in there. So there are some, again, it really depends on what town.
And then also you have to take into consideration Weston has septic systems, and a lot of people don't want to buy a house with a septic system. Needham has town sewer and water. Newton has town sewer and water.
The non-glamorous part of the job, but it's part of buying a home, are the infrastructure and the utilities.
So it doesn't. But on the other hand, Weston has more land because we always lived on, couple acres plus conservation. We always lived in the woods. So that's the difference. If you want to live, have neighbors next door to you, then we didn't. What?
So even looking at the map, the most obvious difference between Weston and any of the other towns you mentioned is it's green. And all the other towns you mentioned, Wellesley, Needham, Newton, they all look kind of gray as if they've been developed. So what is this Weston that's all green? Is it a big park? Am I living in a big forest? What is that?
Well, there are 3 golf courses in town. There's a tremendous amount of conservation land, and the town is very proud of its conservation land. There's a reservoir that people can not swim in, but walk around, as well as there's the Regis College campus. The town center has a large green, and there's conservation land sort of dotted all over town. And you're looking at the map where there's a lot of blue. If you zoom in, there's a lot of wetlands and ponds and water. You're looking at Pinebrook Country Club. There's also the Weston Golf Club, and
Leo J. Martin.
Leo J. Martin is a public golf course. So there's a lot of, in Weston, the population is 11,000 and the Wellesley population is 30,000. It is, approximately 30,000.
Is that all students? Is that all students down there?
No.
Students.
The students, it's a small population of students. Well, Wellesley, of course, is very well known for Wellesley College. So there's students there. And Wellesley has Babson College and Maps Bay Community College. Weston has one small college, Regis College, which has beautiful grounds and playing fields. And Weston also has like, schools and,
Yeah, the schools are excellent there. They're number one by Boston Magazine this year, but then it changes. It changes. Then it becomes Lexington, or it becomes Wellesley number one. You're always in the top 5, but this year we're number 1. Yeah.
So that begs the question, who's moving out and what is driving it? It occurs to me that with COVID, one of the reasons is green space. The other that's always been in vogue is great schools. So what's driving the market now post-COVID?
Well, good schools, really. I mean, that's very, very, very important. They come from all over, and a lot. We've had people from all over. They want the schools. That's why we moved there, because we wanted the schools. That's one of the reasons. And we needed to be near an airport, because my husband traveled all the time, and we wanted land. So, I mean, that was the reason that we moved there. And we did live in Wellesley for a short time, and it was in the Cliff Estates. It was a beautiful, beautiful house. And my husband said, "Oh my goodness." He said, we never moved here. I said, "Well, you wanted a lot of space because we had neighbors, but there's not a lot of neighborhoods in Weston, because all the schools are centralized. So the children always go to the same schools. There's 2 little elementaries that go to the preschool to 3. Then everybody goes to 5, for 5 and 6 together. And then 7 and 8 together, middle school, then high school. So they always go together. When John and David and Robert, my children, went to school, there was only 1 elementary school. They all went from kindergarten all the way up, always together. So
the population was lower.
Yeah,
I think it was more like 7,000, and actually one elementary school closed while I was there.
yeah.
But this is compared to Wellesley, where there are neighborhood schools. There are 7 elementary schools where children can walk to school, and Weston children are bused to schools, and everyone goes to the same school.
Yeah, they do. So the kids from when you're 5 years old.
Throughout the whole town.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about schools as a driver, and
Yeah.
I think therefore I'm deducing that most of the people coming out are what I'd call the traditional family, parents with kids. Okay, not a lot of calling for single professionals in their 20s, right? A lot of families. And could you say that they're moving out of Boston, or are they trading up? Because they're already been in the suburbs. Now they're making more money, and therefore they're trading up into a better town, better school system now that they have school-age kids. We see some of that in Fairfield County, Connecticut, where you might start with your $1 million home and trade up into a $2 million or $3 million home specifically to educate the kids. Are you seeing that phenomena?
We see that sometimes, to trade up.
Well, in your own case, that's what you did, or we did. Like, you bought a house, upgraded it, moved to another, and then to another, and then built one. So you still see that.
I traded up.
Where people they like the town, and they want something bigger, more land.
And he also said something about but moving from Boston, because if they have children, they can't stay in the little apartment, where they have 1 child, 2 children. Then they start looking, and they move to the suburbs. They don't want to, but they do move to the suburbs.
From a standpoint of affordability, are you seeing people struggling with making those next steps compared to 20, 30 years ago, life was simpler, things were more affordable. Now it seems like, especially even here in the city, every time you step from 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom to 4-bedroom, that delta is just getting larger and larger and larger, and it's more difficult every time. So that people end up doing is they end up leaving here completely, and they go somewhere else where they can afford a much larger house and yard, etc. Do you see that upgrading becoming much more difficult because of people, just more and more people moving there, and also interest rates and everything else?
That's what I was
Yeah,
just saying. It's the interest rates. The interest rates are really, so for example, couples that could afford a house for 800 or $1 million, they can't afford that anymore. They have to buy for 700 because the interest rates now are 7.5%. But
I don't see, I'm looking at the map right now, by the way, of Weston, and I see 6 million, 7.5, 2.35, 3.2, 3.9, 5.7, 7, 4. I only see a handful on the entire page, 875 and $1 million. And I'm imagining those are not 4 or 5 bedroom homes. Or is it possible to still get a 4 or 5 bedroom home at that $1 million mark?
yeah, well, no, you can't get, it starts at 2 million. John has a house on, it's the lowest price.
Not
Two-
anymore. It's not the lowest price.
Oh, what is it?
There are lower
Was last
priced
week.
homes. A couple weeks ago, it was the lowest price. A $2 million home was a 4-bed. It's a $2 million home it's a 4-bedroom home. But some have come on, smaller ones. They've gone in a matter of days, but as either rehabs or tear downs.
So talk to me about these two on the screen, 2 million and 3 million, Weston, South Avenue, 4 bedroom, 3 bath. Is that it? You know, is this going to fly off the shelf?
Well, it's been on the market for about a week. This is a very special house. It's called the Jonas Cutter Homestead. It was built in 1850. The homeowners love their home and they did the most beautiful restoration. They upgraded the roof. They put in Marvin windows, which look antique, insulated windows. They put in high velocity air conditioning. You could see they did the most exquisite job. If you scroll over, the kitchen and family room have cathedral ceilings, and it's just beautifully and lovingly restored. Look at the dining room. Everyone says it looks like a Norman Rockwell type dining room where you could have a very traditional like dinner in there. But there's been a lot of activity because of its price being 2 million is a good price in Weston, considering a lot of the houses right now are much more for a 4-bedroom house.
The problem, there's two problems.
There are two
Problems.
challenges. One is
I love Joni getting right to it. Let's talk about
right.
problems, people.
And I use the more gentler words. It doesn't have a garage. There's plenty of room to do a carriage house or a detached garage because it's on an acre of land. It abuts. There is a house behind it, Pinebrook Country Club. It used to be part of a farm, a dairy farm, and it is South Avenue is Route 30, which is a busier road. Many people who move to town want a neighborhood that's quieter. This is not, however, it's set back from the road. It is very quiet inside, and the proximity to Boston is incredible. You are right near the entrance of the Mass Pike, so you can zip into Boston in like minutes, in like 15, 20 minutes.
And
Is an acre lot common, or is that unique?
No, it's a good sized lot in this area. Actually the neighbor's house is around 7+ acres. They might have 9.
Yeah.
And in that area, the lots tend to be larger, around acre to an acre and a half.
There are acre and a half lots mostly on the south side.
In this particular area, but 1 acre of land, and this is all level, usable land, no wetlands, and it's surrounded by woods. It's a substantial size lot, and the backyard and
the other thing is
beautiful.
2 bedrooms on 1 floor and 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor. So.
You know, it's a deal killer for Roberto and I. I mean, Roberto's a convertible guy. He's got a 65 Mustang. When you said no garage,
oh my God, I had the first one.
You
the
have
64.
you have the same one.
I
Yeah.
had the same.
It's my wife's.
oh, cool. Okay.
But
Okay.
the convertible, yeah, I drove it till the floor fell out. I got it. Oh God, yeah, I got that. I got that in 64. Yeah.
All
It
right,
was a
Craig.
64 and a half, actually.
real quick,
Yeah,
John.
64 and a half.
The
Go ahead.
Orchard one, Orchard Ave is right where what was his name? Was it James Taylor, or his brother lived on
Oh yeah, Livingston Taylor lived on Orchard Ave. I don't know if he's still there, but right, that's James Taylor's brother.
And my best friend is building that monstrosity of a home on the corner over there.
Oh right, I drove by. It's spectacular. The land is incredible.
Yeah.
So because you guys have land there, are people buying houses just for the plot of land, and how much?
Yeah.
How much is an acre?
Well,
Well,
there-
we just, well, we can't go, what I hate to interrupt, but
Okay.
we had someone that really wanted to buy a lot. And so something came on the Laurel Ave, Laurel's, what is it?
Laurel Road.
Laurel
in
Road
Weston.
on this, up in the center, over off the center of town. Now, there was a little house on it, and how many acres? And I can,
1.76 or 1.67 level acres. It was a farm with specimen trees and like a crummy old home that was no one lived in it.
so, so
The land
they,
is spectacular.
they
like
had
epic.
20 offers. And we had the highest. Our guy bought it for 2.4 million. A piece of
So a
land.
nice an A+ piece of land in
A
Weston.
plus,
And
A
an
Two and a
A
half.
plus,
20,
2.5.
20 offers. And
Same thing in Wellesley. for a
same thing
nice-
in Wellesley, the same thing. And we were actually interviewed by the Boston Globe about this transaction, some similar ones where building lots are going for 2.4, 2.5 million. This land, if you were to sell it a year later, it would be the same or more. It is very rare. Like, it doesn't have any, it's completely level with specimen trees. Sometimes you buy a building lot and it has ledge. You need to do a tremendous amount of site work. And this is on a prime street. This was an A+ lot.
Okay,
was,
Craig,
yeah.
reality check. I need a sanity check. Is this the
Okay.
exception? Because nowhere in Fairfield County do I know of a piece of land, any piece of land that I could put on for $2.5 million and there'd be 20 people bidding on it. Is that the
Well,
exception?
Yeah, well, that is exception. That is in a neighborhood in Weston. Albeit, I think one of the reasons land is very expensive there also is because you can't just tear down a home. And there's a lot of old roads there. The conservation, the town of Weston doesn't just allow you to do what you want to do. You got to go through a lot of different levels to get things done. And that's why a town like Needham has really come on the map, because there is no wait time for demolition. If you want to knock down a house in Needham, you can file the paperwork right away. You can buy that piece of land for 800 to $1 million, about a quarter of an acre, and then you can build, a 3,500 to 4,000 square foot house.
Like this one? This is
Like
one
this.
of the two you just sold in Needham, right?
Correct. Yes. So beautiful house. That's about on an acre of land, and that got about 3.4. On a
Is that the one on 700 Chestnut?
That's it. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gorgeous.
So yeah,
Gorgeous.
beautiful house. And again, that's why Needham has really been a great area for a lot of people. It's a little bit more affordable than a Weston and a Wellesley, because it's not directly on the east-west corridor, the Mass Pike. So you have to kind of hit 95 for a couple exits. But Needham has really grown tremendously over the last probably 5 years. And I'll give you a perfect example. And actually, to touch on what Roberto said before I forget, you asked, and so did John, you guys asked about who are the buyers coming to the suburbs? And yes, John and Joni made a great point with the families, so on and so forth. But please don't forget that Boston is the #1 life science hub in the world. So not only is Moderna here, you have all these major companies that are sourcing people from all over the world, and they're coming and they're like, where do we go? They get a little sticker shock when they get to a place like, Newton or Wellesley, and, they want to buy one of those 3,000 or 4,000 square foot houses. So they end up going a little bit towards Needham. But if you look at Needham 5 years ago, a new construction house, 4,000 square feet, was about 1.5, 1.6. Now there's one on Manning that's on the market for 2.4 that's going on. So
I sold 2.8, Mad.
So
Pinewood constructed.
What's the
2.8
commuting time
multiple
difference?
office.
What's the commuting time difference to downtown Boston from like
So
Weston
I
and
think
Needham?
if you're in Weston, you have direct access, so it's always going to be a little bit quicker. Needham can range you. It's only like 12 or 13 miles, but some days could take you an hour because the traffic is horrendous the whole way. But if there's no traffic during the day, it should be about 25 to 30 minutes without traffic. And you have TripAdvisor's world headquarters there. And not only that, just so you guys know, Boston also has DraftKings, Legos, which is just moving from Connecticut. They're putting their headquarters in Boston.
What is?
Legos.
Legos.
Oh,
So when I
Cardboard.
look at the map of prices, I am seeing 875, 2.6, 899, 3.4. So I see a range here where I see a whole lot more choice at the million and a half
Yeah.
dollar level up to
And that's-
3 in Needham.
That's because you can also buy townhouses here, which Weston is very difficult to do that kind of development. So again, Needham has a lot more options for, tear downs and other things that you can get creative with. And unlike a town like Wellesley and Weston, that just doesn't allow for that kind of development.
How are the schools? But I want the #1 school system. I'm a school snob.
So again, Joni made a perfect analogy. A lot of it, the new ones just came out, but a lot of it's interchangeable. The
Yeah.
Needham school system is ranked, I think, 21 out of however many towns. I think Weston was in the top 10. So again,
number one.
Yeah.
yeah, well, Boston Latin was actually #1, which you have to test into. It's a public school in Boston.
Oh, okay.
You have to test into it, which is not always easy for everybody. But again, so as long as you're in that corridor, that Weston, that Wellesley, the Needham, you have Brookline, which is obviously tremendous schools. I mean, those are the top schools, I would say, Lexington and Winchester. And for all you guys that are baseball fans, we have a property in Winchester that we got under contract the other day, who, if you're baseball fans, it's Pedro Martinez's house. So
Oh, yeah, he used to live at Allendale, Pedro.
yes, he did. He's lived a lot of different places, but
Where's the address? Wait, we gotta look at it.
one Socrates Lane in Winchester.
One Socrates. Okay.
SOCRATS. So again, Boston is thriving. It's a between the hospitals, the schools, the education, the life sciences, the corporations, the banking, the proximity to Europe makes Massachusetts and its suburbs a very desirable
And how
place.
about we're on like the Atlantic Ocean, so if you want to
on
go
the ocean.
if you want to go to the Cape, you want to go to the beach, you're like an hour away for the best beach. If you want to go skiing, you're an hour away from the best skiing. In fact, the condo I just sold that I'm selling now, they look up right out into the Blue Hills. The Blue Hills, they see the people skiing in the winter. Yeah.
Rhode Island, Newport.
Yeah, right,
Providence,
right. But
yeah.
what Boston is, and that's why we live here. My husband was from Chicago. He couldn't go to an ocean. There was a lake and he couldn't go skiing. He'd have to go, I don't know, Wisconsin. I don't know where he went. But so he moved to Boston.
So we were talking a lot about west and kind of southwest. What's above, north of Weston, northwest? Are there options there or not?
Yeah. Lexington, which is a great town, Winchester, which I just said,
Concord is a little
Concord is
northwest.
good.
Yep. And then you have like on the water up, by Swampscott and Marblehead.
Yeah.
Those are just very hard to get to they're not easy places to get to. So you have to, unless you're coming from Boston, there is no direct route there. So it could take a long time getting through. There's only one way in and one way out over to Swampscott and Marblehead.
What's the hot suburb? What's the hot suburb that's just being discovered? I would imagine Wellesley Weston, that's the gold standard, but has been for a very long time because school system and strict zoning means that there's scarcity, not a lot of new development going on in Wellesley Weston. So where are people focusing their energies now if they're priced out of Wellesley Weston?
Well, I mean, I think again, you try to find a little bit further out. So you look at a town like Natick, which,
Wonderful.
yeah, it's become a lot more affordable. School systems are good. Natick is again, right off of the Mass Pike. So it's about 40 minutes outside a good town. Westwood, but Westwood's already there.
Westwood's good. Westwood's good.
Westwood's a good town over there. And then if you go north and south, I think, a town that's certainly really hot that a lot of people like is Hingham and Cohasset.
Oh, yeah.
That's
right down there.
Where's that?
Yeah, where's
Hingham
that?
and Coast.
So
Yeah,
right
go
there.
down further.
Yep, right there. Hingham and Cohasset
Oh.
right on the water over there. Situate. Again, that's a long commute for Boston, but they do have.
Unless there's a boat, there's a ferry or something.
There's a boat from Hingham that goes right into Boston and people commute every day on the boat. which is
In a town
practical.
Let's talk about that. We just did the Jersey Shore, and this looks just like Red Hook to me. I mean, this looks like Jersey Shore, where all of a sudden a seaside community, everybody decided, you know what? This isn't just a summer gig. I think I could live there year round and get to Boston a couple days a week. Now that my boss is allowing me to commute a couple days a week, this is a manageable commute. Is that one of the reasons why Hingham and Situate are suddenly
100%.
in vogue?
Yeah, because the proximity miles wise into Boston, it's really close. But because of 93, the expressway being clogged up the entire way, it could take you an hour and a half to get into Boston from there. So the ability to hop on a ferry into the city, sure, it makes it very desirable for a lot of people.
Is the desirability of being south-southwest desirable because it's closer to the Cape as well?
I don't know if that, I mean, people like obviously being on the water, and both of those towns have great school systems. Again, it is, it's only about 45 minutes to the Cape if you're over there, which is certainly nice if you have a summer house down on the Cape in the islands. But again, you do have, it's a beautiful seaside town, both of them, all three of them. So
Are you telling me that a banker with a high pressure job who has to be at the desk early in the morning is going to live in Hingham and rely on a ferry boat to get him to work in the morning? Really?
probably doubtful. I mean,
Okay.
I would say they would be in Brookline or Newton or in the city, or a lot of them have, a condo in the city.
Do they? Is that becoming more common to have like just a pied-à-terre or something, just so that you can hang your hat if you have late meetings or something, you don't have to go back out?
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, we have the first Raffles in the United States, which is a combination of a hotel / condo building. And then you have a lot of the Four Seasons has a new building. The Ritz is building an additional building. You have an amazing amount of luxury buildings that are offering a lot of people, they have a pied-à-terre. I mean, the Raffles is offering options for people to, buy a place. It's like almost like a standard one oversized large hotel room. But what they do is the Raffles will then rent it out the days that you're not going to be there, clean it every day. So it's a way for them to make a few extra bucks as well. So yes, a lot of people, because of the commute, if they can snag a 1-bedroom condo that they could use on the weekends, certainly happening a lot more, not to the degree of New York City, but for Boston, it's certainly happening.
What's the budget you need to do something like that?
In a luxury building, you need, for a 1-bedroom, it's about $1 million to $1.5 million, I would say.
Sounds right.
For about 800, 1,200 square feet, roughly, depending
It's
on.
not different from here.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten very expensive. We don't have the size of New York. We're a lot smaller, but everything's compacted into a really small area. So our prices skyrocketed over the last 5 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, that surprised me how small Boston is,
Very small.
which makes it really intimate, actually.
And your New York Post lovely writer, Cindy Adams, completely trashed us, I think, last week. She came to a Red Sox game, and then she wrote an op-ed in the New York Post saying how she did not like Boston. She was not a big fan. You should go find that.
Who-
Cindy Adams.
Cindy
She's the one
Adams.
that says only in New York, baby,
Oh,
right?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, but no, but the Red Sox just fired their general
They
manager.
did. Chaim
They
Bloom,
did. Yeah, an hour ago.
an hour ago.
Right.
And he's not, what a great New Year present for him too, huh?
Boston is a big
That's not
sports.
good.
It's a big sports and music
Yeah,
town.
I was thinking of that.
Or
They
it's
could have
music
waited
and
another week.
colleges.
Yes.
Yeah.
Art and culture. It's the
It is. It has
Athens of
everything.
America.
Talk to me about the market generally. Now that we've talked about little pockets of the market, talk to me about the suburban market versus the urban markets. I mean, I think I live in the suburban market. Roberto thinks all about New York, and he talks to me about inventory levels in the city. And so I'd like to understand Boston. How's the market, and how is the Boston market affecting the suburban market post-COVID?
Well, if you want,
Where's
I'll
the
start with
inventory
Boston.
levels?
I'll start with Boston and let John and Joni kind of, talk about the suburbs. Boston had a lot of, similar issues, like a lot of people coming out of COVID. A lot of people were exiting and moving out, and a lot of that has certainly changed over the last, I would say, 12 months, where people are back in the city. A lot of companies, Amazon just built 2 buildings in the seaport, and they're making it mandatory, I think 4 or 5 day weeks. So hence why the traffic is getting a little bit larger. But at the same time, Boston's also, I think it's a little bit overpriced right now, for what you can get. At the new St. Regis on the seaport, you have square footage up to, they're getting $5,000 a square foot on some of those units over there, which is very New York City billionaire row-esque. So what's happened in Boston is that we've forced to bring in either the super wealthy or people from all over the world that are investing money, because it's become not affordable to the average, person. It's very, very expensive. So, a lot of that has said people, along with interest rates, right? If you're not a seller right now, you don't need to be a seller. Why sell especially if you're stuck on a really good rate? So I think Boston has run into a little bit of that. However, we do have our nightlife is not New York, but it's certainly growing. We added the Encore Casino, which is right in Everett.
Wait, before you get away from that, inventory levels are where versus?
I would say inventory levels are going to show you they're a little bit probably heavy right now in the city, and we're not even showing you the half of all the stuff on ML that's not even appearing on ML.
Why not? Because it's on Wing and the Winthrop. That big, gorgeous. I was there the other day.
Yesterday, yeah.
You were there.
Oh, you were there yesterday. We saw your.
It was
Instagram store.
it's such a beautiful building. And one of my clients had bought pre-construction like 4.7 for 2,000 square foot. Now it's only 54% sold out there, and they're starting to rent them. They are. And when
So let's put a
Just that-
percentage on it. Would you say that the city inventory levels are down a third, while we're seeing suburban inventory is down by 2/3 versus what you're seeing in the pre-COVID? Would you say we're down a little bit, or are we back to normal inventory levels in the city?
Yeah, I think we are. I think we had we had more of a problem prior to COVID with inventory in Boston versus after, because a lot of people left, right? So inventory then opened up, and then again, I think we're a little bit inventory heavy in the condo market, but it's probably low on the brownstone market. That's the way I'll look at it, especially like a single family brownstone. Those are few and far to come by. And again, it really depends. And if you're looking for a certain budget price wise, you're not going to touch Beacon Hill, Back Bay, Seaport.
Okay.
Yeah, for under like 1,200 a square foot.
So deal volume is lower.
Yes, 100%.
Prices are up, deal volume is lower, and inventory is not significantly lower. So it's not a function of inventory and scarcity. It's what is driving these prices?
So real quick, I'll give you some stats. Condo sales fell by 16% over year last month. And it's essentially the same amount of units that were sold. So it's 927 in 2023 versus like 1113 in 2022.
Is it fair to say that the sellers have not, there's a lagging effect, and sellers have not repriced that inventory? There's plenty of inventory. There's plenty of choice. Buyers are not jumping. Transaction levels have come down, and now we're waiting for sellers to respond?
Yeah, well, I'm sure like anywhere else in the country, right? Like there's that big disconnect between the sellers and the buyers. Sellers still think their prices are worth, 2021, 2022, and they're not ready to give up. Certainly on the developer side, when you look developers, that's where I'm seeing a log in the inventory out in the suburbs, is that developers are stuck on their prices. They're not moving, they're not budging. And now we're starting to see 120, 180 days. So it'll be interesting over the next like 3 to 4 months what happens. So
have they increased incentives and things like that, like paying attorney's fees, taxes, etc.?
Little, not much though. I mean, a lot of the new construction, not much. I'm not seeing, unless John and Joni are seeing anything different out in the suburbs.
All right, so let's turn to the suburbs. John and Joni, are we seeing the same phenomenon? I would imagine there's a flight to quality that's why we started talking about Weston and Wellesley. There's a flight to quality. Is that continuing flight to quality, or are they starting with the best that they can afford?
What do you think?
What do I think? Well, what I was going to say is, I think that the big houses, the new constructions, they've come down a little bit. They really have. They've come down. They're negotiating on them, whereas previously they didn't negotiate on them, like Cranmore and Arnold and that. They didn't negotiate. Now they're negotiating a little bit. But we have this one that we put under agreement that showed the picture of Pleasant Street. And that went on for $3 million. And we got a little over asking. And it's not on a high end, the biggest high end street. And it was an unusual house. It's a beautiful house. It was staged, but it has a really unusual, floor plan. 2 master bedrooms on the first floor.
4-car garage.
4-car garage, it isn't, but it is beautiful. That is staged, yeah. But we did get, but I'm finding the last 4 sales I made, they're all cash, that was it.
Yeah.
And mostly no inspections. 3 out of 4 were no inspections.
So things aren't on the market that long.
It depends.
It depends. If they're overpriced, people start to think, oh, I'm going to put it on for 7 million, and they're not worth it. People are more educated now. They're seeing a couple of them coming down. So they've seen a couple of them coming down.
This was priced correctly, though.
This was priced well. Yes, they wanted a
But
price
the one that
higher.
you just sold, you said just over asked, just over like 3 million. The one you just sold, like how long was that on the market? How many showings did you have?
It was on the market. Every single 4 last things I sold were on the market on the weekend and
Sold
on
the first weekend.
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's
But three of them were condos, and the condos were, in the 8s and 9s. That was in Newton, 8s and 9s. So,
This is a turnkey house
This-
that needs no work.
no work.
It's
They-
from
people
2018.
People don't want to do work. When they came
2018.
from Boston, right? They come from Boston. The wife works, the husband works. They don't want to do any work. They don't want anything. They just want a perfect house, and that's it, nothing else. And that's what we're running into. If they need work, they don't want to do it. So
it's the same thing that's happening in New York. The right now, the going premium for a turnkey apartment is 30% over something that needs work. That's quite a substantial difference.
Mm-hmm.
John and I just came back from Lexington because we're putting a house on in Lexington, which is a great town, great town, great schools, because it's near, it's near that.
Well, Route 2 goes to Cambridge, so a lot of
it's
doctors and
doctors
medical.
and everything. It's all near Harvard,
Yeah.
So, but it was, oh my God, it looked horrible. So it was, it's better now because we had the whole thing painted. I mean, they painted everything.
Simply white.
And
Yeah.
yes,
There was a
simply-
lot of wallpaper from the 70s.
We had it taken off. We did all that, and I'm still not. It still is, top, but it looks better. So what we have to do is we got to fix them up. When I even do a condo, and before I get the photographer in, I'm fixing up, or I get a stager in. One of the guys that worked for us, Doug Nahigian, he was Home Trends. He used to in Christmas tree shops. He ran that until it closed. And so he knows how to make a bed, puff up the sofas and everything. We fix up things, we bring in plants, and then, we sell it. You just can't sell something anymore that with dirty dishes in the sink and messy and a bed unmade. We make the beds, we fix them. We have to fix them up. They have to look like, oh my gosh, it looks great.
Well, they
And then
painted everything white and strip wallpaper.
Yeah,
That was a
but
big
then,
difference.
when the customers leave, we just go back to normal. But the customer came
You
in
scrunch
today.
up the bed when they leave. You
Yeah,
scrunch the
yeah,
bed
he
back up.
left the pillows, he did this, he did that, but then today.
I am going to observe that all the listings you just showed me that you've listed and sold immediately all have perfect white on white kitchens, perfect white on white bathrooms, a little bit of charm in the living room, maybe some, rustic floors, but they are perfect. And that's what you're telling me is that that's what people are wanting. Can we put a number on it? Meaning, how what is the premium people are willing to pay for new or perfect white, stylish, white, perfect, new? What's the are they willing to pay an extra 10% for something that's up to date, and they're basically willing to basically punish something 20% or more if it needs an
I'd say so.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Craig? Yeah.
Between 10 or 20%.
Your houses always look great.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't look good.
I mean, first of all, I think we all can agree that buyers they have a hard time like looking at a home that needs work and figuring out where to even begin, right? So a lot of them don't even look at older homes. But yeah, I think you guys are probably spot on, as far as, how many want that clean look. But again, it's all about what they can afford,
I have to tell a funny story. Yesterday, I got a call from an 81-year-old couple. They've been in their house 43 years. They said, come price it. It's a tear down. I'm like, I'll be the judge of that. I get there. It's a 1912 house, 8 bedrooms on, on 6 acres with an 8-car garage and barns and all that. And I thought, oh, this is beautiful. It looks like Tara. It's right out of Gone with the Wind. And then I thought to myself, and then I smack. And I'm like, I don't know anybody who needs an 8-bedroom house right now. I mean, I haven't met anybody in 2 years who says, you know what I need, John? I need an 8-bedroom house. So first of all, an 8-bedroom house with servants' quarters, yeah, that's kind of out of fashion too. So by the time I left, and after a bit of smacking, I was convinced, yeah, you're right. It's really hard to sell what is probably $1.5 million, $2 million project. And so I started in at maybe pricing that at maybe, I don't know, $2 million. By the time my team argued with me, I was down in between, below. The market for a project like that is below $2 million. And I'm going to be hard pressed to find one of these millennials flush with cash who's got the time and the effort and the money and the willingness and the experience to put a 1912 house back together. And by the way, so if I write off all those 70 million millennials and say, well, none of them is going to buy it, and I go look to the people who have experience, people like John Shore and Joni Shore, who have experience flipping houses and turning them over and renovating them, they're in the time of life where they're also not looking for an 8-bedroom house.
No.
Maybe renovate a beach 2-bedroom. Right?
You said 6 acres, John?
Yeah.
6 acres. What's the land worth?
With the barn and the main house, the barn.
It's a land sale. Yeah. And in fact, that's what the 80-year-old couple said. And by the way, it's a beautiful house and is going to be a great deal of emotion, in this sale but they have finally come to terms with the fact that the house has been let go. It did have some burst pipes. It's got some damage to it. So it's going to be a real challenge. They said to me when I arrived, they said, we know this is a land sale. We know it.
It's a land sale. It's a tear down.
What town?
It's in New Canaan. It's right here in New Canaan, where the average house.
So how much is the land in New Canaan? How much is the land on a good street?
So I would say at the peak when we had 3% interest rates, we had builders speculating and they were paying $1.5 million, $1.8 million for a primo lot. But I think that has come down to maybe the $1.3 million to $1.3 million for a primo lot. And I know of 1 or 2 1-acre lots in New Canaan in the 900s, and they'll probably sell. Those will be the first to sell, the ones in the 900s, because a builder can buy a 900 and build for just under $3 million. They can put a nice $3 million 5-bedroom house up and know that they're going to sell it quickly with the least amount of carry.
Could you subdivide that property? Or is that
we have 1 acre, 2 acre, and 4 acre zone. And as you know, it's a national movement to say, hey, listen, why are we zoning for 4 acres? That's a thing of the past. We need to make things more affordable. One of the challenge with upzoning the 4 acre zone is that there's a lot of ledge, there's a lot of wetlands, and our ability to cram 2 septic systems in some of these places is limited. So, but maybe technology, septic technology will allow us to get more efficient with our septic systems, and we'll be able to do that. I don't know. But right now it's 6 acres in the 4 acre zone. So it's
So you
not
could do a-
subsidizable.
Do a mounded septic system. You know what I mean by a mounded?
The engineers, they
Yeah, they
figure it
know.
out.
Yeah, that's what I've
We've
done.
been
a
through
few
this so many
and it
times.
fails, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
One of the strategies to make it more affordable here and that we're looking at is accessory dwelling units. Is that a thing? I know it's a thing in California. Is it a thing in the suburbs of Boston? Are we talking about building a cottage or renovating cottages on the property, or is that not a thing?
It's unusual.
Very
It's
unusual.
unusual.
You got to have
Yeah.
multiple dwellings, I think, on the property if you're even allowed to.
Yeah.
And it goes
But-
town by town.
I sold a farm last year and it had the main house, a Greek revival house that needed an enormous amount of work, had a big red barn, and it had an accessory guest cottage. That was a lot going on.
I know, but you sold it for like 1.4.
1.5,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
land,
And
yeah.
for
It's
the
not a
land,
thing. It's not a thing, and people don't ascribe any value to it. Are you kidding
I don't
me?
know what
And then
they-
again, everybody wants one. Everybody wants an accessory dwelling. They want a gym. They want a Zoom room. They want a mother-in-law apartment.
excuse me.
Mhm.
So I can't
Yeah.
believe it's not a thing in Boston. All right, I want to get back to the beach. I'm going to hit share screen. We're going back to the beach with Craig. What is this in New Seabury,
Oh,
Massachusetts?
good.
Yeah.
$1.3 million.
Oh,
That
wait a
sounds
minute,
like a bargain.
what did Lisa say?
With ocean views and
Yeah,
that's-
wow.
Yeah,
Look at
that's
that.
so it's in a quaint little village in New Seabury, which is New Seabury is in a community within the Mashpee limits. So it's all in the South Cape, about an hour and 20 minutes from Boston. It's a resort style community. That's the way I like to say it, with a brand new fitness club with a huge pool, oversized pool. We have tennis courts, obviously pickleball courts. And then this particular unit, then there's a beach club where you actually pay, part of your membership cost. They will put out your chairs for you. They'll bring you drinks. There's a bar on the beach. There's a restaurant. The developable land is owned by Carl Icahn, which I'm sure you New Yorkers know. So he went on and built like 4 different sections. But this particular cottage is really unique. It's called Mosh-Up Village. They bought it last year this time and they completely gutted it out.
How much did
And
they pay for it?
it paid 1.1 and we put it on for 1.24. So they did all the work. They hired top of the line people. They got everything
They
done.
did.
Yeah, they did.
This is a secondary home community?
This is a lot of it is, yeah. And
Yeah.
the rental market is extremely strong. Prime time, you could get like $1,000 a night there. So, 7 to 10 grand a week down there, not too bad.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's your private beach
That's
right
beautiful.
up there. Yeah, it's beautiful. And a lot of people like it. Papanesset Marketplace is within walking distance, and that's a cute little market with restaurants and shops and coffee. So,
How far is this from Newport?
well, far, because there's no direct way to get to Newport from there. You got to get off the Cape and then go down to Newport.
Got it.
So it's
Got it.
probably like an hour, 2 hours, but
Is this entire gray rectangle of housing one development?
that's all part of New Seabury. That's just the Mosh-Up Village right there. So there's also the cottages, which are they start at about 1.2 up to 2 million, and those are roughly about 3 to 4 bedroom, 3,500 square feet, which is another community within there. And then these all little offsets. Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, has a home on Papanesset Island down there. So a wonderful place to kind of feel like drive an hour and a half or hour and 20 minutes away from Boston, and you feel like you're somewhere very different.
Wow.
Great.
And
very
this
nice.
is 5 hours old, this listing?
5 hours old, correct? Yep. So
How
hopefully,
fast will it, is this going to be a multiple bid situation? Is there just no inventory in there, or is this one of a couple
it's not
choices?
meant, but again, it's off season, so you got to you're not going to be able to use it for most of the winter. So I think it's going to be a mindset for people, but I do have a private showing set up for tomorrow at 10 a.m. So we will see. But
So can I get the 9:30 slot?
yeah, and then
So you're gonna drive there from the seaport, and it's gonna take you how long?
and it's tomorrow reverse commute. Not bad. I'll do the showing and I'll come back. just in time before this Hurricane Lee comes. And we have, I have no idea where this thing could go. It could track, Nantucket looks like it's on its course, but we'll see. So that's why I did open houses scheduled for the following weekend, just because.
Is that Lisa?
Mhm.
Oh.
That is
Say
Lisa.
hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hollywood Squares.
Real quick, John,
That's right.
for you, the lobster roll, right? Because you guys
Yes.
are from, I'm assuming it's a hot lobster roll.
Yes, sure.
But you got the best at Pompanesett. Yes, that's the best.
I like them. We have
What?
a bar, which is very
Yeah, the
good.
raw bar is the best. I know, because I go,
Mortgage out to buy it. It's like 50
Right.
now for a lobster roll.
They're $30 a roll, something like that.
more probably.
More.
Yeah. But no, what I was saying, John, is that when you get a house and you have to list a condo or a house, you try to fix it up, paint it up and make it look good. So it's very
Well, of
inviting,
course.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got another, we'll keep going on show and tell. I'm still at the beach and I don't have $1,000,003 for that sexy little development that you just put on the market. But I do have $800,000 and I'm all excited about 16 Brant Rock in Mashpee, Massachusetts. Talk to me about this one. Who's going to buy this one? And what's the appeal?
Well, so again, in the same community, Mashop Village, which they don't really have rental restrictions. So you can rent it out. This one needs a lot of work, in my opinion. I'm not sure. This one was signed, I think, in a couple days, though. And it's also under $1 million. Which is very-
Joni and I are looking at this and we're like, a little bit of paint, this thing will be good as new.
I'm looking at it.
A
Yeah.
little paint.
Yeah, you gotta fix it up a little.
Ceiling
It is,
walls.
yeah, ceiling wall. You have to put some plants in, some flowers,
Yeah.
fix
I
up
don't think
some
we're
plants.
doing the pickled walls anymore, are we, Joni?
No, pickled
No.
walls, right?
But yeah, you can, I mean, that's great rental income. And then to be honest with you, I don't know if that one has any water views or not, but
Mm.
it's only a 2-bed, 1-bath, I believe. But
It's
I
a
believe-
huge market for something like this because not everybody has tons of money and they just want a place where they can rest their head and get out of the city. I think it's great.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love this at $799. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
It's amazing.
And with the, so let's talk about that rental market. So if I bought this and I'm able to use it in, let's say, the shoulder seasons, but I'm going to rent it out in high season, is there a big market for that?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
for Labor Day, the Cape is from all over the world that want to be there. Plus your proximity to the islands, both Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. And I know Nicole is on here, is really close. You can take the ferry over from each one of those, the fast ferry from Hyannis. So a lot of people like to come down here on vacation. And I do think that, the demand is great. And, depending upon how you advertise and you promote your rental, there's a lot of money to be had. And I think
Oh, Doug's doing the rental.
so.
Mhm.
So
All right, give me some more good ideas. So what's the difference between this? I guess this is New Seabury, but we were talking about Scituate. Is this further out?
That's
This Scituate?
north.
Situate, yeah.
Is that north?
Yep. Mashpee, New Seabury is obviously the Cape. And then you get into a town, another great town is Osterville, which has got extremely high.
Wait, so where I see Scituate, I see Hingham. Where in relation to those was the Seabury we just looked at?
Well, that's the
It's over
South
the
Shore.
bridge.
You've got to go down and go over the
Over the
the
bridge.
Cape Cod Canal, go
Yep.
all the way down. And then
Yep.
you're in Cape Cod once you go over the bridge, the Cape Cod, but by Bourne, that's where the canal is. See where Bourne is in Sandwich?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where the arms, there, right there. That's where Cape Cod's start.
Oh, there's your
Where Bourne-
Mashpee down
There
here.
you go.
There you are.
And that whole arm is Cape Cod. So you have to go over the canal in order to be in Cape Cod. It says, welcome to Cape Cod. And you get
Okay.
over the bridge.
Or the Sagamore Bridge over at Route 3 or 6. or
So
whatever.
Situate, Hingham, that's South Shore. Cape Cod is over the canal.
Yeah.
So we've just looked at $799 to $1,300 in this Mashpee Cape Cod neighborhood.
Mhm.
Talk to me about South Shore neighborhood. Am I likely, if I say, I like that idea, but I really want to be on South Shore, are the prices higher or lower? South Shore?
It's
I think
different.
It's different. Yeah.
It's
Not
different.
those are more residential. So I think
Right.
like, the ability to rent them is limited because I don't
Okay.
think I go there. But you can buy a 4,000 square foot house and Hingham for $6 million, $5 million if it's right on the water, at least. So the pricing could be really high up in that area. Again, for us, I think a lot of the vacation stuff down in the Cape and the Islands those are the money makers. And if you guys have been watching anything about Nantucket, you all know, we opened an office there, and Nantucket is so hot. That's where the billionaires go now. And a lot of people like it because you can't just drive there. You got to fly there or boat there. So it attracts a lot of, for people looking for privacy that don't want to be bothered. That's why Nantucket has gotten.
And like John, my son John always says, you can't be a poor billionaire with 3 or 4 billion. You could have 10 or 12, right? Billion.
My gosh, that's hilarious. Oh
I'm
my
intrigued by this. So I've blown up Scituate on the map, and I just wanted to look at, what can I get? And you're right, 3.3 and 5.9 on the water, but I am seeing a 2-bedroom for $799. I guess it's a condo. So I can get into a condo in Scituate, and you're saying it's a tough commute, but it's possible, right? Hour-long commute? More. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But Scituate, Cohasset, Hingham, those are somewhat suburbs of Boston. You're on the water, but when you get into the Cape, the topography of the land, the lifestyle is completely different.
That's right,
It
it's a
feels more
lifestyle.
vacation. You have more sandy beaches. The air is different. The towns, you have villages. It's different. Wouldn't you say, Craig? It's different down there. Yeah.
Once you cross the bridge, go over the Sagamore or the Bourne Bridge, it's like a different world. I mean, it's like you take a deep breath.
You have
I'm
like
here.
rambling roses
Right.
and sandy
I mean, it's
beaches, some are
beautiful.
rocky.
It's
It's just, it
beautiful.
feels like the topography of the land is different than the South Shore.
Yeah, it's beachy.
It's beachy, right?
All right, we should wrap up. Can you give me your predictions, Craig, John, Joni? Give me your predictions, and let's get back to Weston, Wellesley. We're now hitting record prices in the most desirable suburbs of west of Boston.
Well,
Is
let me
your
just say
prediction-
something.
Where's your prediction for the next 24 months?
But John, you were looking at average prices.
Yes.
The average price, John has.
Yeah, for the past 12 months into September, the average sale price in Weston is $2,976,000. The median is 2,230. Prices have gone up 13.79%. Wellesley, the average sale price for the past 12 months, single family home, is $2,288,000, up 7.85% from last year. The median sales price being $2 million. These towns will always continue to do well. They're desirable. Inventory is still low. I don't see much change in the market. Do you? I think there's less inventory. Things with the rates have changed things. It's quieter than we expected for the fall market. It wasn't as busy as we'd expected.
The problem is that the rates, people that wanted to buy in the spring said, well, it's 5%. I'll wait till the rates go down. Well, they went up. So they're waiting, but look I have to release my car, and it was over a few months ago. And the dealer said to me, wait a few months because the rates will go down and you'll get a better price on the same car. And you know what? The rates went up. So I want to know, what's the prediction if you're saying we saw a 13% price appreciation, but now we've got a different interest rate environment, but we're still light on inventory, and that's not going to change. Are you seeing price appreciation, and at what level for the next year?
I think for me, as long as inflation has been curbed and interest rates don't continue to rise, because if they do rise at the next meeting and they do go up, 7% may look pretty good down the road, depending upon how everything turns out. But if they're saying what, I believe to be hopefully true, I think prices will start to, as long as interest rates drop down a little bit, what I think will happen is then there'll become more sellers because we need more sellers. And once they get to that under 6%, I think they'll say, okay, that's a number that I'm a little bit more comfortable with. Hopefully, again, I don't know how everybody thinks. And then, but what I do see in the very near future is I think it's going to be a tougher fourth quarter. And I do think that people that are going to need to sell, there will be some deals to have in, October, November, and December this year. There always is, but this year more than ever, I think there's going to be some deals to be had.
Well,
Again,
Powell said that the rate, that he's gonna push up the rates again. He's thinking.
Are those deals in the fourth quarter going to
Mhm.
drive expectations in the first and second?
it's a great question. I think a lot of it depends upon inventory levels, right? And the suburbs continue not to have inventory, and still, then the prices will continue to still stay high. So I think a lot of that is predicated on.
You always have more buyers in the spring, always more buyers, and so, the houses will be gobbled up quicker because if there's less inventory and more buyers, we went through this with the pandemic. There was less inventory, more buyers, and we're selling everything. 300,000 over, 200,000 over. There was bidding wars if the
rates were lower
The
then,
rates were low. The rates were low, but now, but we always have more buyers in the spring. There's not a lot of buyers out there now. I don't see a lot. Do you, Craig? For the houses, I don't see as
no.
many as the spring.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are holding unless they are being transferred for work or they have
Right.
to a bigger place for some sort of particular reason. I think a lot of people are on hold right now.
All right.
We'll see, but thank you for having it. I really appreciate it.
We loved
Guys,
having
thank you so
Great
much.
It was
conversation.
fun.
It was fun.
How did we
Really
do?
great.
I think you did
Wonderful.
really great. I think this is something bankable. I think that if people were waiting. I think what we're learning from you is you have an opportunity to pounce in the fourth quarter, and then all those new buyers are going to show up first quarter next year. So
That's
you have a
right.
limited window to call Joni Shore to get into Weston, Massachusetts. Limited window.
That's
love it.
right. Limited.
And if you're like me and Roberto and you drive a convertible, you should probably call Craig and head for the Cape. Right?
Yeah, that's what
Thank
I
you,
want.
Craig.
Convertible. Bye, bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you guys so much. Take
Thank you,
care.
everybody.